Hello. A very, very good evening. A very warm welcome to everybody wherever you are in the world. I can see there are quite a few people already, which is absolutely amazing. In the UK, the weather is slightly cooler, which is very, very pleasant, but in many other parts of the world, it still isn't. So I hope that you're not suffering too much from that. Let's just say, have a look who's here. Hi to everybody. Thank you for joining. Thank you for being here. It's absolutely amazing, and it's very, very exciting for me, particularly to be here today, be here tonight. It's going to be a very, very special day for me, and I'm going to tell you all about that in a moment. Let's just see, it's kind of fluctuating a little bit in terms of people, but I think it's slowly getting there. It's always very odd to fill the first like 2-3 minutes or so until all the people who have are here who want to join. But it's quite a few people. This is brilliant, and for me a big relief after this really weird day. So let me just tell you a little bit, and I do need to look at my notes from time to time, which I am rarely using. But tonight there is so much going on that I rather want to kind of follow my concept a little bit. The day itself didn't really follow a concept very well. It was just very, very odd. I tried to frantically finish the new website for the ReikiScience Academy. And well, everybody who knows me a bit better knows that I'm completely hopeless with anything technical. And I did have some help previously, but today I thought, okay, I need to add some content and a few bits here and there. And then the software that makes all that possible on whatever it's called, WordPress, wouldn't load. It was just gray. And it was just absolutely ridiculous. Of course, first I thought that's all my fault. And I tried again and again and again. In the end, I contacted my developer, and he searched the internet and realized it's an ongoing problem with the software. And the next update will fix that. But unfortunately, the update didn't arrive during the day. So it was kind of intermittent. So not everything is perfect as yet, but I'm still going to introduce you to the website in a moment. And then I thought, okay, I also want to announce a new workshop, which I'm holding in London, and which is very connected to the topic of tonight's launch, Reiki Science. So it'd be really important to have that on there. So somehow I managed to get the basics on the internet, and then I wanted to enable people to reserve their places. So I needed to connect it with PayPal. Well, it's a new setup, or what do you call it, structure behind the Reiki Science Academy. So I have a new PayPal account, and I couldn't make it work. I just couldn't connect it. And in the end, I phoned them, and it turns out that the buttons they used to have on there are only available on the old accounts, and they decided to not offer them anymore on the new accounts. So now I need a developer doing all this, but it will take some time. So somehow I managed to connect it all, but that was my day. So it all started very weird, and everything is kind of half finished, so perfect for a launch. But I suppose that's the way of the world. And along all this, I was thinking about content and about, oh, thank you. Yes, that's why they make IT departments. Exactly. But if you are primarily one person with some people who help you in the IT field, then it's a bit more difficult. Otherwise, I would have summoned my IT department, but that didn't really quite work. So along all this, working on the content, I realized there is so much more content. And this is why I am, to use this punchline. I'm much more content tonight, even though not all the content is on the new website, because I can really, really see the potential. And I want to talk about the potential and just give an idea how we can make this work together. Because Reiki Science, the Reiki Science Academy, just as the Reiki Revolution, is a community project. And it's there to be shared and to be worked on together. But before we do that, I would like to invite you to just join me for a few moments of Reiki. My favorite Reiki treatment, emergency Reiki. Whenever I have a problem, whenever something happens, like what's going on today, I just connect to Reiki and I just place my hands on my heart and just let Reiki flow, help, solve the problem, calm me, do whatever is right, and bring me back into balance. So I would just like to invite you to do exactly the same. Just bring your hands together for a moment, connect to Reiki, and then just bring your hands on your heart. For me, the immediate effect of just feeling the warmth, feeling the love, feeling the connection is just incredible. So let's just stay in this connection for a few moments together. And just pay really attention to the flow, to the sensation under your hands. And you may feel it really filling your entire body, your entire being. I almost don't want to move my hands away from my heart, but it's supposed to be a show where we share things and exchange and learn. So let's just bring our hands once more together and thank Reiki. And of course, we will finish the show by connecting with each other and sending each other Reiki and having a big virtual Reiki share again. I really want to talk a little bit about what this new idea is all about. So let me just see if I can find that. And if there's no spelling mistake, no, I think it's correct. So it's ReikiScienceAcademy.com, the new website where the Reiki Academy London is transitioning to. And over the next few months, everything in terms of teaching that we are providing will migrate to the Reiki Academy platform. Eventually, it will go into the States as well, and hopefully there'll be some live events at some stage. So the idea really is to make myself available and meet people in the States and give workshops there and talks and talk about more about the science behind Reiki, because that seems to be the missing stone, the missing bit, the piece of the puzzle that is just not complete. Isn't it strange that in the UK, the National Health Service accepts Reiki and allows and invites Reiki practitioner into hospitals? That in America, over 800 hospitals are using Reiki. And as soon as COVID came, everything closed down and Reiki practitioners weren't invited anymore. There were very, very few projects, as far as I'm aware, of sending Reiki remotely. So basically, as soon as disaster struck, Reiki was completely overlooked. So something has gone wrong. And then after COVID, it's very, very slowly coming back. But generally, there isn't as much interest as there was before in complementary therapies. I would go as far to say in personal spiritual development. We want to go on a holiday. We want to have our normal life back. That's the idea. But life is not going to be normal again. There are so many struggles, challenges in the world that life for the foreseeable future will be very challenging and difficult. So we do need an anchor. And Reiki can be that anchor. Just this beautiful emergency Reiki. This is basically what we need and what can make all the difference. So the question is, how do we reach more people with this idea? The big questions that normally come when we talk about Reiki are, so what really is Reiki? Is there any evidence that it works? Where is the science behind Reiki? Or how does it work? And we then come with anecdotes. We talk about our lives and how it's changed our lives, because we know that it works. We are all living proof that Reiki works. And yet it's very difficult to bring that across to skeptics. I went to a party, wonderful garden party on Saturday in London, beautiful weather, and it was amazing. And there was one guy who was a very big Reiki skeptic, and we spent 45 minutes of a really deep conversation. In the end, he said, well, let me know when you've got it on your website. I really want to go deeper into that. People are longing for scientific information. We do have an intellect, we have a brain, and we need to connect the brain with our heart to be a wholesome person and to confidently talk about Reiki. Not to be the weird person, the airy-fairy person, this kind of energy person, but somebody who practices Reiki because there is a proper scientific foundation. And this is where we want to help, and why we came up with the idea of the ReikiScience Academy. The idea is to really demonstrate that science, spirituality, and complementary therapies are not opposites, but they beautifully not just work together, they naturally come together. Spirituality, science, complementary therapies are all part of the same package once we start doing the right research, proper research, and ask the right questions and look at things with a clear scientific approach. And that is the whole idea behind what we want to do. So very soon on the website, at the moment it just says we will be presenting the latest research, but very soon there'll be research listed on the ReikiScience Academy website. And there is quite some research around already. At present, worldwide, there are about 80 peer-reviewed papers published in scientific journals, and they cover various ways of how Reiki was researched in clinical settings. And that's very interesting. There are some fascinating examples there. I think one is about multiple sclerosis. Another one is that is fascinating, working with rats, I think, and how it could be measured that the stress hormones after Reiki were significantly reduced. So this is really, really interesting. The problem is most of this research isn't terribly interesting. Not only it's very academic, which is completely acceptable and understandable and should be like that, but I really feel that in most research, the wrong questions have been asked. If we have a group of, say, 20 people in a hospital setting, all suffering from leukemia, then what has been done in the vast majority of these studies was to ask the question, how do you feel? From 1 to 10, what is your stress level? What is your anxiety? And then people got a Reiki treatment, and then they were asked again, so how do you feel now? What is your stress level from 1 to 10? What is your anxiety? And it's normally significantly reduced. But what hasn't been done was to take a blood example before the Reiki treatment and after, and see if there were any changes. A few weeks ago, in the first show, we had a lady, Anne-Marie Karatu, who is the chair of the UK Reiki Federation, and she also works in a hospital. And she says for her, it's just fascinating working in oncology and in intensive care units and having these screens with heartbeat and so on. And to give somebody Reiki treatment and to see how the heartbeat evens out during the Reiki treatment. But there are hardly any, if any, studies about that, where this is regularly measured before and after Reiki. And this, I think, is a big problem. When we ask about stress levels, when we ask about how Reiki feel, how people feel before and after Reiki treatment, then of course it's great when they feel good. But a lot of people would call that a pseudoscience. They would say, well, this is how I feel. And if somebody says, I love you and smiles at me, I feel good as well. Yes, absolutely. And by the way, it also levels out our heartbeat. but the key is to really get proper scientific research and proper scientific results. We need blood samples. We need the measurements of the heartbeat. We need to look at the cells in the body. We need to put stuff under the microscope and look at the before and after. And then when we can prove the differences, and of course we can, because on a small scale that has already been done, then we can share that to people. We can just flood the internet with the pictures of before and after, and then people will say, okay, maybe I try it out. And once people try it out, it doesn't matter anymore at all whether the blood tests and the scientific research, then people get hooked. And this is why we are all doing it. This is why we are using Reiki, because it is so incredibly exciting. And I'm just looking at some comments here. Brain and heart coherence, that's exactly where we need to go. We need to see the effects. And that's absolutely important. And yes, there is a really good book from Anne Baldwin detailing plenty of clinical studies, and this will also be mentioned on the website. But again, most of these studies do have the shortfalls that I mentioned. Some are spectacular, absolutely, but we really need to do more. And one idea behind the ReikiScience project is to start studies and to create more studies in the world. The problem is we need to, of course, do this in a proper scientific setting. We need to work with a hospital. We need to ideally work with a university, with researchers, with academics. And this means it is quite costly. The vast majority of medical research in the world, to my knowledge, is not financed by universities or hospitals. They do their work of training and of providing the services. It is financed by the pharmaceutical industry. And of course, they have every right, and it's totally understandable and acceptable that they do that, because on that is, of course, the pharmaceuticals are based on the research. But of course, there is also a huge interest in financing studies that involve pharmaceuticals to be involved, or machinery to be involved, not healing hands that come for free. And we always really need to understand that. And let me just see, 18th is also, thank you very much. So, look, I'll just look at the date, and I'll just check that in a moment. Thank you, Vinisha, for the comment. I make a note of that. We really need to be very clear about these problems, that research is expensive, and so in a way, a return is expected, a financial return. And with Reiki, we can't do that. We get a return in terms of healing, in terms of spiritual opening, in terms of a deep understanding of the world. So yes, there are some challenges, but I'm absolutely certain they can be overcome. In my last Reiki 1 course that I held in London 2 weeks ago, there were 2 medical doctors. So of course, on that basis, we can start doing some research, and one has even offered to work on a research project. So that's very, very, very exciting. There are already research projects in St. George's Hospital in London, where practitioners come on a regular basis, and it's monitored, and some PhD students are checking the reports. There's just a new study to be released about a Harvard-connected research project about the individual experiences after a Reiki treatment. Of course, again, it's the individual experiences, but if we have so and so many people coming with similar experiences, then of course this is scientific and hopefully groundbreaking information that we are getting there. There was the Medicare project in the UK, where Reiki practitioners send Reiki to people involved in medical settings, doctors and nurses, and they get regular Reiki treatments sent over a distance, and they fill in feedback forms. So very soon we'll have a body of research with that, even about Reiki sent over a distance. So this, of course, is absolutely exciting as well. This is Reiki and physiology. This is Reiki in clinical settings. But of course, science is much, much broader. And to really understand the depth and the holistic approach of Reiki, to really understand what Reiki really is, universal energy, we need to also look at other aspects of science. And I've listed a few here where we will be looking at during the research with our own projects. And I'm very excited to say I have already a few scientists lined up to appear on the Reiki Revolution live shows on YouTube. And they will talk about their scientific field and the connections with Reiki. So one, of course, is biology. Nature. When we have seedlings, 2 seedlings, and water them equally, but give Reiki to one and not to the other, for a week or so, we can see the difference. So there is a connection between Reiki and biology. Of course, Reiki and animals, we've talked about that, and we'll have more people talking about that on future episodes as well. So this is very, very, very exciting. Energy theory. We're talking about energy. We call this energy healing. But what does that actually mean? Everything is energy. So we are connecting to, well, the idea of higher vibration energy. What is higher vibrational energy and how can that be measured? This is not just a challenge for Reiki. This is something that many scientists all over the world are involved in. Sound, high vibrational frequencies, color, the sound of the universe, the humming sound of the universe that can be heard and can be measured. So this is something that is very, very fascinating to explore. Of course, we are getting to quantum physics. We're getting into the fascinating world of quantum physics. And the idea that on that level, on the subparticle level, everything is connected. So how does that relate to Reiki? Could we even say Reiki really is applied quantum physics because we are tapping into that level beyond the individualized obstacles and we equalize things and we are reaching out? Is that why we can send Reiki treatments over distances? Because we are connecting on the quantum level. This is very, very fascinating to have a look at. I recently had a long conversation with a new friend of mine who is a NASA astrophysicist. And he was on one of these big planes going into space. It wasn't I think it's still called a plane, but it was getting to the edge of the atmosphere. And they were doing all sorts of studies there. And his particular field is looking at twin stars, which is unbelievable. The idea of interconnectedness between stars in the universe and or the information it can give us about the structure of the universe, about the interconnectedness of the universe. Again, a fascinating topic that really connects with Reiki. I often struggle with these things. I think it's fascinating, but what does it have to do with my everyday own life? Yes, it has a lot to do, but there are many other fields of science. There are social sciences. There is psychology, a fascinating field. Before I held a workshop at Alternatives a few weeks ago, I had this very strong intuition to go into Jungian archetypes. And I looked at the different archetypes. And we spent some time at this workshop looking at the different archetypes, realizing that we all have these different archetypal, what do you say? I don't know, archetypal forces within us. And of course, they are rivaling each other. Sometimes one wants to come to the forefront, sometimes another. And if 2 or 3 or 5 come there, if we act out of an archetypal instinct, but there are 2, then we kind of act in different ways. And this explains many of our internal battles and challenges. Psychology has been, psychotherapy has been around for a long, long time. And it's fascinating, the science that has evolved out of that and how it helps us to understand ourselves and to see how Reiki works on this psychological level. It really gives a completely different and new perspective of looking at Reiki. And it's fascinating to see how the Reiki principles are really structured to be like a psychology of the system of Reiki, the psychological base. So this is another fascinating field of science, and we'll have some psychologists on the show in the future as well. There are complementary therapies in different ways. Many are with a fantastic body of scientific research and evidence, and they all connect in different ways to Reiki. So we'll be looking at that as well. Everything, in a way, looks at how things are interconnected and how the whole universe is interconnected, which can't really just be explained with quantum physics because there are different levels of the structure of the universe. And we'll be looking at that as well from a very, very fascinating scientific perspective. And of course, we'll be looking at the scientific proof that I found in Switzerland a few years ago now, which was inspired by the idea that we can give Reiki to a glass of water, fill 2 glasses with tap water, give Reiki to one, not to the other, and the majority of people tastes a difference. In fact, I found that so funny, and I probably told the story before. A few years ago, I went to a school reunion in Germany, and from my year, there were, I think, 4 or 5 people who became dentists. So with one lovely dentist lady, I stood at the bar and we chatted, and she asked what I was doing, and I talked about my then very recent research at this laboratory in Switzerland with water, and she thought it was really interesting, and she just turned around to the lady behind the bar and said, "Can we have 2 glasses of water, please?" So we got 2 glasses of water, and I gave Reiki to one for 5 minutes or so and not to the other, and then she tasted it and said, "It really, really tastes different." So the person behind the bar tasted it as well. Yes, they found exactly the same. And what I then found absolutely hilarious, I mean, there was just so much going on, but then this lady said, "Oh, that's so interesting." And then she turned to the next person and said, "So what do you do?" And I thought, that doesn't change your life. That doesn't stop every other conversation for the rest of the evening and make you go inside and question every belief you ever held before. That your old classmate, with his pure hands, can change the taste of water. So sometimes it is difficult to reach people, but I still believe that the vast majority of people really, really can be reached with the very, very fascinating evidence of scientific research. What I found so fascinating in the water tests was that there are different crystallizations and different ways of how the water changed once I used the Reiki symbols. And of course, one is very much focused on physical change and physical healing. And when I used that, the negative ions in the water increased. That means physical healing was going on there. And the laboratory tested that immediately. And then they did the test under microscope afterwards. I also focused on the connection, the harmony symbol, with the idea of getting more, well, reaching to higher vibrational levels and getting more guidance and inspiration. And what was fascinating was the negative ions were less. So there was less physical healing going on. And then I used the connection symbol, and the sample of the water changed the most. So it basically improved the most. It had the highest quality. Looking at the crystallization, there were like star-shaped, starfish-like crystals all over the sample when I used it for physical healing. So it went right through the entire physicality of the water. But when I used the harmony symbol, more looking at guidance and balance, then what could be seen was that there were samples. No, the crystallization was just on the edges, so as if it was reaching outside. And when I used the connection symbol, the crystals were they were overlapping. They were reaching towards each other. It was fascinating, but it showed that there is a science within Reiki. And when we really analyze how Reiki works, we are getting closer to the core of its understanding, the science within Reiki. Reiki meaning the universal energy. So basically it's the science of the setup of the universe, the level of form, physical change, and matter, the level of being in a spiritual or in a spirit state, pure energy, and the level of we're all coming from the same source, we are all connected, we are all one. And this is basically the basic setup of the universe. And then we can go deeper into the levels and understand it more deeply. But all this is where the research is going to. And it's just absolutely fascinating what we can find out. We can really understand not only the universe, but as a result, the setup of the universe, but as a result, our place in the universe and how we are connected to everything. That's a question, and that's really interesting. What's the largest amount of water that I've experimented with? It was basically, I think it was 2 liters or something like that, a big kind of bottle of mineral water. But of course, we are all working with larger amounts of water constantly because our body mass is primarily water, 60, 70, 80%, depending on how much we drink and on our age. But that means that every time we give Reiki to somebody else, every time we receive Reiki, it resonates in our body. And that means in the water that makes our body, in the fluid. And so we are already working with this, but I know that there have been tests, and Lake Constance, it's called, the English word, Bodensee in Germany, Lake Constance. There have been a test with energy, a big project with Masaru Emoto a few decades ago, and they could feel the changes for the entire lake. So this is really, really interesting. So, but that's very fascinating. But it was a few hundred people working on that. So thank you so much. It's a fascinating and really important question, because it means we can also research, and we need to look at the idea, how powerful does Reiki get when we come together and send Reiki together to a single problem, to a single event, to a single entity, whether it's water, whether it's a lake, whether it's a city, whether it is a disaster zone, whether it's the climate. There's so much we can do, and we can research, and that's very, very, very fascinating. So that's the idea behind the ReikiScience Academy. There is already a lot of research out, and we are going to present the research. But there is also a lot of research still that needs to be done, and we'll be working on that together. And for many, many research projects, your input, your help, your volunteering is invited and absolutely necessary. So this is why I'm so excited starting this today. Over the course of the next week, basically over the next few weeks, the Reiki Academy London first is transitioning to the ReikiScience Academy. Then we'll start putting more content on the website, and we'll be sharing it, and we'll start putting out more information and more projects and more workshops online as well as in person. And one workshop is coming up. Let me just see where I've got that. And let me just see if I made a mistake. So it's absolutely correct that the 18th of September is a Sunday. So the question is whether the workshop is on a Sunday. And I might even find this out right now, and then I can confirm. So good to have a mobile phone on you and just see, but it's searching the internet. Why can it not find something? Let's just see if it's finding. So I have the 18th of September in my mind. Let's just see if there's any way to put it, to find it. If not, then I can't find it on my phone. So I will confirm. I believe it is the 18th, but straight after the show tonight, I will make sure to confirm the date, and I will go on the internet and go on the new website and put the information there. But I believe it's on the 18th. It is a live workshop in London, Reiki and Science, where we'll go more deeply into all the science behind Reiki and the different scientific ways of looking at Reiki. But it's never, and that's the beauty, just theory. It's always experience. And this is what makes it so powerful to look at this research. We understand the research, we understand Reiki more, and we can then go more deeply into Reiki and use various techniques and new ideas to combine Reiki with this research and to make it experiential. Reiki is always about experience, but the experience itself, of course, can explain much more and can be researched again. So Reiki will stay what it is, a wonderful palm healing method, an experience of being connected to, of being one with the universe. But we can understand it better, and this opens a whole new world. And in the process, we can reach more people. So this is the whole idea behind connecting Reiki and science, behind the Reiki Science Academy. And please bear with us. We're still working on the website. It will look very different in a week's time. But for the time being, the basics are already on there. And I really didn't want to wait any longer to share that with everybody. It's just such an exciting development. And I'm so incredibly grateful that we can do all this together. I really believe that this will change the world. I think it will change the future of Reiki teaching. And all this research will filter into every aspect. And of course, everybody who is teaching Reiki, every Reiki master, is very warmly invited to freely use all the material on our websites, in our programs. It is not meant to just be there for a selected few. It's there to be shared and to reach as many people as possible. So let's just come together once more and experience the power of Reiki again. So you can see I'm just struggling. So now that's gone again. I'm just looking at some comments. There's another water comment there, and there's a question whether we can record the September event. Yes, by then we'll also be able to have something online as well. And there was a comment to put Reiki in the bathwater. I always do that. In fact, that was an additional challenge this morning. I had a plumber around because there was a problem with the plumbing and the sealant and so in my bath. And that for me is, I was about to say sacred. It's so important to have this wonderful bathtub. I spend so much time in there to open up and to receive intuition and to let go and feel much more connected and much more open. I always actually have my phone next to me and dictate into my phone what is coming through and what I'm supposed to do next. And a lot of what I've shared tonight, I got yesterday in the bath. So yes, it's a really wonderful idea. By all means, I would recommend that. You may feel the same when you are in a whirlpool on a holiday, in a pool, in the water generally. I tend to find for me, it needs to be really warm water. I even find that sitting in a sauna has a very, very, very similar effect. And all that started when I was in this onsen, the natural hot spring baths in Japan a few years ago. And there, for me, this real connection with water started. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for joining. Thank you for listening. And please now, let's all join forces. Everybody who is on the broadcast tonight and everybody, and that is again the fascinating thing about Reiki, who will look at the replay at a later stage. Just whenever you have the time, whenever you look at it, whenever you who are here tonight will or want to experience that again, then just connect to Reiki and join in. So let's do this now together. When you're ready, just connect to Reiki. Just bring your hands together and set your intention. I'm now connecting to Reiki. And for a moment, just feel your own connection. You may feel a sensation in your palms. And then when you're ready, set your intention to now connect with everybody else on this Reiki share. Everybody who's on there now and everybody who's on there in a replay. Just open your hands. If you've learned the connection or distance symbol, then just take a moment to draw it. Followed by the mantra, as we always do, Honshatse Shonen, which is Japanese and just means my true being is a correct thought. Who I truly am is connected with everyone and everything. And this is exactly what we are experiencing right now. So now just set your intention to connect with everybody and feel this connection, sending and sharing Reiki with everyone. And just be aware that at the same time, of course, you are receiving Reiki from everybody. It really is, in a way, quantum physics, being connected to the universe, receiving the energy, being connected to everybody, sending and sharing the energy, and getting it, receiving it from everyone as well. It is a whole web connection. If you are struggling, if you experience a problem, if you feel pain or suffer from an illness, just set your intention that Reiki may help with this particular problem. Just for a few more moments, enjoy the connection, both the community and receiving Reiki. And then just bring your hands once more together and thank Reiki, and slowly come back into the here and now. It's sometimes really difficult to come back into the here and now. But of course, Reiki will continue working. So it's not that a treatment is a one-off thing. It will continue to work. That's another interesting result of the water tests, that the results stayed. And a few weeks later, we did a test again. I think it was it 2 months later or something like that? And the water was still significantly improved. So it does stay, it carries on. Of course, we constantly renew ourselves. We constantly are exposed to problems, challenges, and so on. We eat, we drink, so all this has an impact on our body, but Reiki continues to work and Reiki stays in the body. So we're really building it up more and more the more Reiki we use. So once more, thank you. Thank you so much for joining me for the launch of the Reiki Science Academy. I just can't believe that it's finally there. Not the complete picture. There will be new videos on the website over the next few days. There will be new information. It's still very basic. The main thing that has changed so far is the logo and the additional workshop and a page that lists the information about Reiki science, scientific research to come. But it is a start, and we together can make it work. It's just very, very, very exciting, and I'm generally really, really pleased how this is all developing and working. I got an email earlier today asking about my what was it, podcast project, referring to these weekly shows and whether this has already come to an end. And I thought to myself, no, it's not coming to an end at all. It's getting more and more and bigger with the scientists. There's really interesting people, fascinating Reiki practitioners, people just talking about their personal experiences about Reiki. This will just continue going on and on and on. So thank you for your support. Thank you for being here. Have a wonderful rest of the day, evening, wherever you are. There's ReikiScienceAcademy.com. Yes, I hope that's all okay in there. And I will go straight into my emails and check whether it's definitely the 18th. I have it in my mind. I'm pretty certain it's the 18th of September, but I will make sure within the next 10 minutes it's all updated if it needs to be updated, and then we go from there. And wherever else you are in the world, I will make sure that as much as possible we're going to put online, we'll be doing workshops online and so on, and really form a worldwide community to bring more Reiki into the world. So have a lovely evening, have a lovely rest of the day, or if it's in the morning, a whole day, a good day at work, a wonderful day with the family, and just make sure to remind yourself of the connection to Reiki throughout the day.